welcome everyone. This is, of course, our very first sort of episode, I would call it, of a series of interviews taking place on a Wednesday as we get to know our coaches at RE better. And someone we've been wanting to get to know for the longest time, especially me, is Lesley Bam right in front of us. She is a business coach. She's a leadership coach and a transition coach. And of course, she is one of the coaches at RE. And we are so super blessed to have you. Hello, Lesley. How are you?
Hi, Megan. I am good, thank you. And yourself? It's so lovely to be here with you and Candice tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Of course, we regard our coaches as like probably the most special people on this planet, some of the most special people. In fact, I'm very attracted to coaches for some reason. I have this attraction toward people, and then we meet for a coffee, and then I find out, oh my goodness, you're a life coach. That explains it. So just another coach for me that I can get to know. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, we also have our beautiful, and apparently in South Africa right now, she sneaked in from the UAE. We've got Candice Booysen on the line as well, our founder at RE, and of course, so much more. Candice, I won't be able to go down this long list, but welcome. How are you?
Thank you very much, Megan. I am so excited to have this conversation with you and Lesley, and I echo your sentiments. Coaches, they are the change makers in our world, in this generation, and their gift often impacts generations to come. So happy to be here, and really happy to be in South Africa as well.
Thank you.
Welcome
Thank you
to South Africa.
Welcome in the cold. So before we kick off with Lesley, Candice, a question for you. Why this? Why this series?
Oh, wow. I think for the longest of time, and as you know, RE has been around for nearly 2 decades. And for the longest of time, our coaches has been our best kept secret. And I realized that the people that get to benefit, our beneficiaries, they really spoiled. Their lives are changed because of our coaches. And I think this platform is to share our coaches with the world, to share our coaches with people who's wondering, what is coaching about? Who's wondering, where do I start with coaching? Anybody who's seeking to develop themselves, who's curious about the world of coaching and mentorship, this platform is for you to be inspired, for you to be educated, for you to be challenged, hopefully. And also maybe some of our coaches could be of service to you, either to your business or to you as a professional. So the reason why creating this platform is simply because we can't keep all this goodness and magic to ourselves. We got to share it as equals do.
Absolutely. And I love the part of people being inspired and changed and challenged and all of that. Of course, for those who don't know, RE is a mentoring and coaching organization predominantly. We do a lot of other things around that, of course, but we have the mentee, we have a mentor, and then we have a coach. And very often we find that mentors now want to step up to a coach. We find that mentees want to become mentors. And that is really the whole idea, is to keep on, paying it forward. I was helped, I was mentored. I know someone else may need this. So this is awesome. So I'm going to get straight into it with Lesley, of course. Lesley, first of all, tell us a bit about yourself. What do you do and all of that?
Thank you so much, Megan. I also just want to add to say that well done, Candice. This is an absolutely amazing platform that you have embarked on. And I'm absolutely honored to be part of this in sharing the work that I do and also helping to inspire people to get onto the coaching journey, because it's an amazing journey for self-development. And I would like to share more with you as we go along with this conversation. And so, yeah, my name is Lesley Bam, and I am based in Cape Town. As you've mentioned, Megan, I am a business and leadership coach, and my coaching business is called World of Learning. And so I've had this business for many years. I think it's more than 13 years. Can you believe it? As a registered business, but I've been in corporate for more than 20 years. And I've always had this passion for consulting and helping people on the side as well as in my professional role. And so I've been working part-time in this business. And as recent as last year, I stepped out of corporate and I decided to completely immerse myself into my own business and wanting to give back to community, but also wanting to just live out more of my passion and seeing how I can partner with potential clients that are in need of development for their people. And through that, I would offer the gift of coaching. So I particularly offer a method that is both belief and behavior based, and my work is based on the integral model. And so it's all about connecting the heart and the mindset through reflective practice. And this is where individuals can improve their own thinking by engaging meaningfully with their inner and outer worlds. And so my offering entails leadership and business coaching, transition coaching, existential coaching, which is also the traditional life coaching. And I also specialize in facilitation and consulting services regarding people development to partnering clients. So that's in a nutshell what I do under my banner of World of Learning.
Wow, interesting. Two words I remember from that is, did you say behavior and belief?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, wow, absolutely amazing. So I think you partly answered the question, but take us even further back. Where did your love for coaching come from? Where did this interest come from?
Wow, my interest was stirred with my own personal experience of being introduced to a coach more than 10 years ago. One of my managers, we went through a restructure, and one of my managers recommended that we, as the management team, we each get a coach. And I was like, what is this coaching thing? I didn't know anything about it, even though I've been in the people development space for a very long time. And so what I appreciated about my own personal coaching journey was the value and growth that I could see in myself. And a few years down the line from there, I then decided to embark on a learning journey to introduce coaching into the organization that I worked for then, not realizing the mind-blowing impact it would have on the people that I lead and that I've trained and that I develop in the organization, but also on my own transformation as a leader. And so from there, the rest is history, because I was just completely hooked by it. And I did various courses and certifications really just to empower myself and to build up my credentials so that I can one day stand as a well-rounded credentialed coach. And so that's kind of like how my journey has evolved with coaching.
All right, thank you so much. So, of course, an incredible journey shared with us by Lesley about how she got into coaching. But Lesley, my next question is, of course, there's so many NGOs, there's so many causes out there where we can give back. What attracted you to Releasing Eagles?
Megan, I always had a passion for community and giving back. I think it was almost 3 years ago that I founded a community project, which I lead with a group of ladies, and it's called Project 31, and it's still going, it's still alive and going well. And our mandate is really based on the book of Proverbs 31. And the mandate that we hold within that space is really about uplifting youth and women in particular in our communities. And with that, we do various projects and initiatives to bring that vision about. And because of my passion and because of my heart being in the community, I think it was also about 3 years ago almost that I actually saw on LinkedIn. I think it was you, Candice. You posted something on your page, and it kind of just, jumped out. When something jumps out at you,
Yeah.
It really just jumped out at me. And I remember I still connected with you on LinkedIn to ask about this particular program. And you connected me with Pamela in Cape Town.
Yeah.
And that's basically how I basically got involved with Ari. And as a coach, I believe in paying it forward always. And I offered my gift of coaching to the Ari family, and I'm absolutely honored to be part of this family. So yeah, that's kind of like how it appealed to me. And I also just think the why RE?
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, I have a heart for women and youth. And I was attracted to Releasing Eagles because it creates a safe platform for young individuals to raise their level of consciousness about their purpose and also the contribution they want to make in the world. And I felt that I could contribute to that
Yeah.
as part of Ari's vision. And I believe it's our duty as role models to invest of our time and energy to support them and, to lift as we rise. And so that's really why it has really just kind of been standing out for me, this organization. Like you say, there's so many, but this particular one has really been special to me.
Um,
Yeah. Oh,
Thank you
wow.
so much.
Fantastic.
Wow. And Lesley, I mean, ever since you've joined the RE family, we've been richer for it. We get amazing feedback from your coachees who are the mentors on our program in terms of the impact that you've made. I think when we had the appreciation notes extended to our coaches, there was a lot of tissue moments, a lot of tears of just sincere gratitude of the amazing work that you do. And I think, as a coach, one is constantly challenged to be, to stay relevant. We in the world of change constantly. I think the pandemic, nobody could have, predicted this. And so
Yeah.
I think as a coach, the question would be, how do you, in the amidst of all the changes that's happening in our world, how do you ensure that you remain, that the product that you offer, your service that you offer, how do you ensure that that remains relevant? And how do you get down to the needs of your clients? What's that process like, and what's your sort of philosophy when you approach change?
Hmm. So it really makes me think of my recent journey in completing my master's degree in business and leadership coaching. And the reason I embarked on this, I recently completed, I think I started in 2019 and I completed successfully beginning of this year. The reason I embarked on this journey of self-development for me was to remain relevant. I think that was the key part of it, to remain, because I've got other qualifications and prior to my master's, I was already certified as a coach.
Yeah.
And so the key for me was to remain relevant as a leader and as a professional.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, I mean, COVID-19 is continuing to have a huge impact on many aspects of our lives, from education to how we do business to our daily living. And we no longer have the luxury of preparing for a change to come.
Mm.
I have realized through my learnings of COVID that we are currently finding ourselves constantly
Mm.
living in change,
Mm.
living in transition. And so my latest research is based on developing leadership agility
Mm.
for leaders navigating through uncertainty and complexity. And my dissertation was based on that. Prior to us even knowing that COVID-19 was going to have such a huge impact on how we do things.
Mm.
And I couldn't have chosen a better topic of interest because it's so absolutely relevant. It was so relevant for me as a leader to reset myself, but also in how I coach and the facilitation that I offered to leaders that needed that support in how they navigate through complexity and uncertainty, and really honing in on what are those leadership agility competencies that needs to be focused on now more than ever in order for leaders to rise to the next level. And so the other aspect that was also coming out for me was the rise of women during and post-COVID. Very interesting topic. For me, I'm still curious and I'm still doing research about it, but a recent article that I read referred to the gendered impact of COVID as the shadow pandemic.
Oh, wow.
And so it's about we know there's existing challenges, which includes gender-based violence that women in particular face. And this has simply been illuminated during the pandemic. If we look at women in corporate organizations, in leadership roles, we have all been impacted more so now during COVID. And so how do we reset ourselves? How do we actually rise so that we are ready to lead post the pandemic? And so based on my research, I recently started working with a gender perception tool, which is a self-perception tool particularly focused on developing women and cultivating a culture of diversity and inclusion.
Wow.
And so my focus with this work that I'm doing in the back end is to create opportunities for women of all ages to develop the necessary skills that can assist them in navigating through life with our innate empathy, our confidence, our authenticity, and also seeing our own vulnerability as a strength. For me, it's about helping leaders and helping women in leadership to confidently take their seats at the boardroom table. And for our young girls to aspire to this, or at a young age already, to have that inspiration. I mean, if I take myself as a young girl, if I think back when I was at school, I never ever had the vision or the aspiration of becoming a leader. I had an aspiration of becoming a teacher or a doctor or a nurse, but never did the word leader actually resonate with me. And so if we can instill that within our young generation, I think that we will, add a lot of value in how they develop for the future. So those are the aspects that I'm focusing on for me to stay relevant, and also observing the change that leaders go through, and the needs that arise with working from home, virtual, working and leading virtually, and also how I can be of support to them, focusing on those new skills. It's not necessarily new skills, but I think it's just about polishing up those skills that are important, like empathy, like authenticity, creative engagement. How do we engage creatively with our teams virtually in an authentic way, which in the past it would probably have been a different language. So those are the kind of key areas that I'm focusing on in terms of remaining relevant.
Awesome.
That's incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. So coming back to Candice, these are obviously these are incredible people. And as we said earlier, you can't exactly just look up a coach. Coaches are not that easy to find. How do you connect with coaches? How do you go about your process at RE?
So at RE, we've got amazing coach leads. We've got currently Yolanda, as well as Gail, who's in Johannesburg. Yolandi is in Cape Town. And we allow our coaches to apply. They go through a process of application where they submit their application. They then get an interview with Yolandi, who would do the screening. And during the screening process, essentially what's happening is looking for alignment of values. We don't discriminate in terms of the methodology. We simply look at the person's intent, their heart. What would they like to achieve? What is their intention in the program? And Lesley, as you would know, being a coach can be a lonely process. It can be a lonely journey as well, because you work for yourself sometimes, or you work within an organization. But being part of a community of coaches really, really is helpful, and it serves you as well. So we find that as our coaches come into RE, they find a community. They find that sense of belonging, that support with each other. And so to answer that question, Megan, the process is simple. It's one, because our coaches work with young people, we do require criminal check. We do require that you do come with your coaching qualification, and that there is an alignment with the intention of the vision. And it was just so, it was so heartwarming to hear Lesley speak about the vision of raising the level of consciousness. It's clear that, you know, she connects with the vision and she speaks the language, and more importantly, she holds the beneficiaries close to her heart. And that's what we're looking for in terms of coaches in RE. It is hard to find them, but I think we don't necessarily actively go and look for the coaches. I think there's a saying that says, your vibe attracts your tribe, and everybody in RE that has come in, we have not gone on a massive campaign, recruitment campaign. The extent of our campaigning is putting on our social media handles that we are looking for coaches, and that's about it. Developing partnerships with universities where we do a call for coaches, and somehow, some way, Megan, the right people show up. So that's sort of how we get to our coaches.
Yes, so that is so true. The right people absolutely do show up. I think when you come into the space, you feel like, oh my goodness, where has this family been, you know? And there's just such a familiar sort of connection between all of us. It's my last question for Lesley, and then I'll find out from you, Candice, if there's any last words or questions from your side. But it's been 45 years, of course, in the struggle since Hector Peterson lost his life. And the youth of South Africa largely is still unemployed. The youth of South Africa largely still are not being imparted with these leadership skills we are talking about. And education, even today, is not, or the best of education is still not available or accessible to everyone in this country. So Lesley, 45 years later, it was 1976, and here we are. It is 2021, and it is COVID-19. What kind of sort of advice do you have for the youth of today? What can you leave with the youth of today?
Wow, that's a deep question. But a few things that comes to mind for me is, I've mentioned this prior in the conversation as well, is that if we look at the impact of COVID, we are continuously living in uncertainty and in change. And I think it's not going to go back to the old normal. Change is what is part of our lives now. We know that change is constant, but we are living in it. And so we no longer have that luxury of planning and thinking, oh, we can still plan for the change. We can still plan for. We have to already immerse ourselves almost into the future. So agility for me is key. One of the key advices that I would like to share with our youth is, what do I mean by that? For somebody that are younger, that are still at school, it starts with what you are doing now, being intentional about what you focus on, giving your best every day, rising is what I define as part of agility for a young person, to prepare themselves, to be nimble, and to start preparing for the future. The second point is, as much as what the impact of the pandemic is highly challenging for all of us, I see a lot of opportunities specifically for our young people. The rise of entrepreneurial skills, as one example, is creating an opportunity for our youth to create their own future by discovering more about who they are, about themselves, about their passions, focusing on what their true passions are, and what their purpose are. I mean, if we look at when we were young, it was about, what do you want to become? I want to become a nurse or a pilot or a doctor or an accountant. And I'm not disregarding those professions at all. But the world is changing, and how do we evolve? So what would that entrepreneurial skills look like? the economy is changing. How do we become more creators in our economy, and own that space? And that is what the opportunity holds for our youth, is to broaden their perspective around what they would like to become. And so the last part that I want to leave is, in summarizing, just my message to youth is just to leave them with the coach that I am, just to leave them with a twofold question that can start the journey of self-discovery for them. And that would be, who am I? And who am I becoming? It's about constantly asking yourself those intentional questions. And the more we ask that, the more we find new meaning about who we are and how we can show up. So yeah, that's my story.
Thank you so much for that, Lesley. Yeah, the youth of today, I have to say, if I had, a coach, if I had a mentor growing up, I always say I probably would have been in The Bold and the Beautiful, and I would have been Rick Forrester's wife. I don't know why I always go back to The Bold and the Beautiful, but there would have been so many more possibilities for our youth, if they had these types of organizations and coaches stepping up the way you do. So I think that our youth are in a much better place. Absolutely. It is, it depends on what you're going to do with all of this. It's really up to you, the youth of the state. Thank you for that. Candice, any last words or questions from your side?
No, just to say, wow, Lesley, what an absolute pleasure it was to have you on this platform. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your insight. I think, if we look at the females, one of the female presidents in New Zealand, that's the first country that actually handled COVID and the pandemic very well, which speaks to your point of the demand placed on women in leadership, where we are at. I think it's time for us to take the place. There's a beautiful scripture that says that in the fullness of time, or the earth is groaning for the sons and daughters to be revealed. And I think this, what you just said, there's a great demand placed on women in leadership, and we have what it takes. And so thank you for rising as a leader, even though when you were younger, you didn't see yourself as such, but you're certainly living beyond that which you could see within yourself. And that is inspirational. That is encouraging. So for every young girl watching this episode, as Megan had said, just because you don't see it doesn't mean that you can't be it. Lesley is a beautiful example of a young woman that did not necessarily see herself as a leader, but here she is today, serving organizations as a coach, serving young people as a coach, and making a difference. And then, of course, to our lovely host, Megan Edwards, it's always an honor and a privilege to share a platform with you. Thank you for holding the space so beautifully and gleaning the wisdom from Lesley today. Much appreciated to both of you for your love, to RE and to all the beneficiaries within RE.